It was supposed to be a typical Sunday afternoon, the kind where the smoke from the backyard grill carries the scent of charred burgers and sweet barbecue sauce across the lawn. My family had gathered at my sister Sarah's house for our annual summer cookout. The patio was crowded with relatives laughing, kids running through the sprinklers, and music playing softly in the background. Everything felt perfectly normal, almost picture perfect, until one accidental moment completely shattered the peace and exposed a side of my brother-in-law, Mark, that I never knew existed. Mark had always been a man of imposing presence. He was loud, fiercely proud, and carried an intense energy that often made people walk on eggshells around him. I always tried to keep a respectful distance, not wanting to trigger his notoriously short temper. On this particular day, the kitchen was a chaotic hub of activity. Plates of raw meat, bowls of potato salad, and bags of buns were being passed back and forth through the narrow sliding glass door that led to the patio. Sarah called out from the yard, asking if someone could bring out the extra tray of marinated chicken. Wanting to be helpful, I grabbed the heavy glass dish from the counter and turned around to head outside. As I stepped toward the crowded doorway, Mark suddenly shifted his weight to walk back inside. It happened in a split second. The walkway was narrow, and with my hands full, I couldn't dodge him in time. My shoulder lightly brushed against his arm as we crossed paths. It was a completely minor, accidental bump, the kind of trivial contact that usually warrants a quick, automatic apology before both people move on with their day. I already had the words, "Oh, sorry, Mark," forming on my lips. But I never got the chance to say them. The moment our shoulders touched, Mark's entire demeanor transformed. It was as if a switch had been flipped inside him, unleashing a wave of pure, unbridled fury. Before I could even process what was happening, his hand flew up. The impact was sudden and deafening. He slapped me across the face with such immense force that my vision instantly blurred, and a sharp, stinging heat erupted across my cheek. The force of the blow caught me completely off guard, throwing me entirely off balance. As I stumbled backward from the slap, Mark didn't stop. He lunged forward, grabbed me by the front of my shirt, and violently threw me away from him. I lost my footing completely, crashing hard into the side of the outdoor dining table. The heavy glass dish I was holding shattered on the concrete patio, sending pieces of chicken and broken glass flying everywhere. The loud crash of the breaking dish and the violent thud of my body hitting the ground instantly silenced the entire backyard. The music seemed to fade away, replaced by a suffocating, horrified silence. For a few seconds, I lay there on the cold concrete, my mind racing in absolute shock. My cheek was throbbing, my elbow bled where it had scraped against the ground, and my heart was hammering against my ribs. I looked up, expecting someone to step in, expecting Mark to look remorseful, or at least realizing what he had done. But Mark just stood there, towering over me, his chest heaving with anger, his eyes wide and wild. He didn't look like a brother-in-law who had made a mistake, he looked like a predator waiting to strike again. Slowly, the paralysis holding the rest of the family broke. Sarah let out a sharp gasp, rushing forward to place herself between Mark and me. She looked back at her husband in absolute disbelief, her voice trembling as she asked him what was wrong with him. My parents and cousins rushed to my side, helping me sit up and checking if I was badly hurt. The confusion in the air was palpable. Everyone kept asking what had happened, what I had done to provoke such a monstrous reaction. And that was the most frustrating part, I had done absolutely nothing. I had simply brushed past him. Mark offered no apology, no explanation, and no remorse. He just muttered something under his breath about people needing to watch where they were going, turned on his heel, and walked straight into the house, slamming the door behind him. The barbecue was effectively over. The atmosphere was completely poisoned by his sudden, inexplicable violence. My parents insisted on taking me home, and as we drove away from the house, the silence in the car was heavy with a mixture of anger and confusion. In the days that followed, the fallout from that single afternoon began to tear the family apart. Sarah called me crying, caught in an agonizing position between her husband and her sibling. She tried to make excuses for him, mentioning that he was under immense stress at work and that it was just a terrible misunderstanding. But I couldn't accept that. A stressful day at work doesn't justify turning a minor, accidental bump into physical assault at a family gathering. My parents demanded that Mark issue a formal, sincere apology and seek anger management before he would ever be allowed at a family function again. Mark, however, let his pride rule him. He refused, digging his heels in and claiming that I had intentionally tried to disrespect him in his own home. That chaotic afternoon at the barbecue permanently altered the dynamics of our family. It opened our eyes to the dangerous volatility lurking just beneath Mark's surface and forced everyone to choose where they stood. It proved how quickly a peaceful, happy family tradition can be completely destroyed by a single moment of unchecked rage, leaving scars that take far longer to heal than a bruised cheek or a scraped elbow.